Hello and welcome to the third episode of Ara Ara podcast. I'm your host Vivz, and once again, Amy is with me today for our discussion. How are you, Amy?
All good. How are you, Vibs?
Also fine.
You're wearing red. You're ready for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? How about you?
Yeah.
Are you planning to celebrate Valentine's Day?
I don't really know. I mean, like usually we just spontaneously go somewhere. It's not, we don't really plan. I mean, yeah. So
and knowing how overrated Dubai is sometimes with holiday stuff, so it's gonna be like 3 times more expensive if you eat out somewhere. So
no, that's the thing, and it's just like gonna be like super crowded, and it's like everyone's just gonna be everywhere, and it's something I want to avoid as well.
Yeah, the introvert in us, just avoiding people whenever we can, So yeah, okay. Now, going on to our episode for today. Our topic is piracy really hurting the anime and or the video industry, and is supporting streaming sites truly a way to support the studios as they claim? So what do you think, Amy? Does it really hurt the industry?
I mean, like we'll get into it like further, but I mean, I think we've all done it, or we all still did. I don't speak for everyone, but I don't really think it completely hurts the industry just because of like how how prevalent anime has become because of how it did start with piracy. So, I mean, we'll get into all of that, but yeah, personally, no, I don't think that it necessarily hurts the industry, but it is not something that, just because it doesn't hurt, you should do.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, it's not really a yes or no thing or a good or bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not trying to justify piracy here. It's just that it's something that helped the industry in some way. So before we delve more into that discussion, I want to know first, Amy, do you know how animation studios earn money, or how do they generate their revenue?
Not like a complete idea. Like if you want, like if you know more about it, like I would love to hear it.
Yeah. So I was actually reading this article earlier today, and they were talking about the business model of how the industry works. Now, I mean, I'm not an industry expert, just saying. But based on what I've read, it seems, or it is like anime studio earn money from licensing, selling the copyrights to broadcasters, streaming sites. Also, they earn money from merchandise, toys, Blu-ray, DVDs. So anything basically like the Nendroids, the figures that you see that has your favorite character in it. That's how they directly earn money. But as far as streaming sites, technically it's like more on a contractual basis. So they have an agreement with, let's say, for example, Crunchyroll, Netflix, to broadcast this. And if a show becomes a hit, or, becomes popular, or if, let's say, for example, Netflix didn't really earn anything from that anime, the money that will go into the animation studio is fixed. Like that's it. Like they will not get bonuses or commissions or whatnot. So yeah.
That's also something I'm aware about, like, and it is something that, like, I wanted to say as well, like, at least later, that just because you're streaming it legally doesn't mean you're necessarily supporting the industry just because. I mean, they've already had their pay. It's done. Like, the deal is done. Like, I mean, I don't really, again, like, I don't know the full, like, how like everything goes in full circle.
Mm-hmm.
But I assume that everyone's already been paid their salary,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then I mean that's done. Like at the end of the day, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
like how the royalties and all of that come in later.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I don't necessarily see how uh just because I pay, let's say, Netflix every single month, would like how
Yeah,
it would necessarily directly affect a certain anime and
yeah,
its
yeah.
creators.
I agree. And also, based on another research that I've done, is that animator or studios pay animators or the artist on a contractual basis. So technically, sometimes they don't even know what the anime is that they're gonna work on, but they're paid in advance. Like there are some companies who work in that kind of business model. But I think I also want to discuss the major point that I wanted to talk about, which is licensing of the anime, because that's actually why I think most people pirate anime. It's because of licensing issues. Like, for example, if you will go to Crunchyroll or Netflix, not all of the good animes are there. Would you agree, Amy?
Mhm. Yeah, no, titles are very limited, and it's per region, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's another reason why people pirate anime, just because something is not available in their country. Let's just take Demon Slayer, for example. Mugen Train came out in cinemas here, and it wasn't on Netflix. And well, where else?
Where
And
else?
if I if I recall correctly, it wasn't also on Crunchyroll here at the time.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
also, at the time that Mugen Train was released in the cinema, like for example, our friends in the Philippines were still in lockdown. So I
yeah.
think they're still in lockdown up until now, but they recently opened the cinemas, like only late last year, I guess. So imagine how can they watch Mugen Train? Even Spider Man, that's the best thing, right?
Mhm.
That's the best
Yeah.
example. Spider No Way Home was not shown right away in the Philippines, but due to different
Mm.
reasons. Sorry. Like it was more because of the pandemic. But yeah, I agree. Like sometimes you just, like, even for example, like ongoing animes. Have you tried watching ongoing animes, Amy?
Yeah, I have.
Where do you watch?
Like, no, for example, Tommy Can't Communicate is an
Okay.
ongoing anime and it's on
Oh.
Netflix.
Makes sense.
But I will mention a little bit more on that later.
Okay. So yeah, but before we move on, going back to the licensing topic that I was talking about, part of the article that I've read, which this one was in Vox.com, they were talking about the dark side of the anime industry. So they mentioned there, are you familiar with Osamu Tezuka?
The creator of Astro Boy, I think.
Yes. So he's considered the god of anime, and he technically started the business model that the Japanese are still following up until today, which is crazy. Like,
Okay.
at that point, in the 1960s, I think Tezuka was he technically undersold his series at that time
Mm.
because no studio wanted to broadcast an anime. It wasn't a
Okay.
thing, right? And we know how Japanese people are when it comes to risks. They don't want to take risk. It's always
Right.
what works, that's it forever. It will
Yeah.
take a really hard time to convince them to change how things work, even in the gaming industry.
Mm.
Like see how or what happened to the recent acquisition of Microsoft or they recently bought Activision Blizzard, if you're familiar with that. So that
Mm.
definitely affects the gaming industry in a way that, I don't know, will it be monopolized by Microsoft in the future? Who knows, right? But the thing is, the Japanese people will still not change their mindset about video games. So yeah, now going back, just a little bit of a backstory of what's happening also in the video game industry. So going back, the Japanese are still using that kind of business model. So what he did is, even though he undersold the license of his show to the studios, he tried to make up for it by selling toys and merchandise, which worked for him.
Right.
Like, right? So since it worked, it became the standard now of how animation studio should operate, which is up until now they're doing that, right? Like based on the examples that we have mentioned. And I honestly think that they need to revisit that. Don't you agree?
Mm. Yeah. I mean, so basically, like the way I understand it is that the majority of the earnings that they get is just from merchandise,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. And the Blu-ray, DVD sales. But I mean, man, I'm not gonna buy
Like
Blu-ray at this
collectibles.
point. Would you buy?
It's for the it's for the sake of like collectibles, I guess. Like you don't know if like how much it'll earn in the future. Like,
Yeah,
people
maybe.
like let's say, I don't know, selling Pokemon cards down the line, you don't know like how much it'll cost just because
Mhm.
it's, vintage.
Mhm.
And a lot of Gen Zs these days, they find anything vintage. So like so it's
Oh
probably
my god!
sooner than we think.
Oh my god! Don't remind me my age. I remember they like the iPod. I'm not sure what it's called. The one that you clip on.
Yeah. The clip. Right. I saw that on TikTok too. Like she put it on her hair.
He's like, is
Yeah,
this
I
a hair
know.
clip?
I had a Gen Z. I have a Gen Z friend. Our common Gen Z friend. So she loves like cameras and stuff like that. And literally, she asked if I've ever used an old camera. I just looked at her like, what are you talking about? She's like, because they're vintage. You put film in there and you need to develop the film. I'm like, yes.
Oh
That is
my
how-
god! She
That
did
is how
it.
cameras work.
Yeah. Oh my god. So yeah, Gen Zs are used to Polaroids. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Instant camera or
Yeah.
digital camera is the thing
Yeah,
for
so
them.
So I'm saying like maybe if you have DVD collections now, like maybe in 5 years they're gonna be like, oh my god, that's so vintage. Like let me just pay extra.
I wanted to say I should have kept my pirated CDs then. Oops. Whoa, that's a different thing, girl.
Whoa.
So yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, guys, like that's where I started anyway. Like it's not even no, not really where I started, but that's where I got deeper into the anime hole. Because for us in the Philippines, we discussed this in the previous episode that basically for us it's easy because it's on TV and it's localized. Right? Imagine watching Yu Yu Hakusho or Ghost Fighter with Tagaloged names, right? Eugene, that's not his name, it's Yusuke. Right? But imagine that's where we started, girl, localized. And you started with Arabic anime too.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Like piracy did help make it more prevalent in the West even, just because there were people who were doing fan subs of animes, and that was the way to like consume anime back then, because like how else would you understand, or how else would you watch an anime if it's just like purely Japanese and you don't speak the language?
And yeah, that's the thing. Like before, it's understandable because it's really hard for us to get a material to watch. But now it's so easy with the internet and streaming sites. It's very easy for us to watch foreign content without having to go through the hoops of, going through different pirated websites and potentially giving your laptop or your PC AIDS. Oh my god, Limewire! the best way to give your laptop or your PC AIDS. Okay? Just saying. Have you ever done that, Amy? Like you had to, reformat your computer just because it's filled with viruses?
Uh, I remember using Limewire, but I think like I don't recall having any viruses from it. Maybe I'm just lucky, or I
Or
don't
you
know.
didn't know?
Or maybe
You
I'm not
didn't?
aware that there are like 10 hackers just on my computer just seeing everything I do.
And girl, seeing whatever you type on Google is the ocean blue.
Exactly.
Like look at that shit
Right.
you.
Because I was like, what, 10, 12? Like, I don't think I was looking for anything intense at that time. So all these hackers are like, yo, when is she going to do anything risque,
Where's the information? I need the card info, not this shit. Okay.
I don't want to go to Barbie.com. What?
Y8.com, girl. That's the thing back then.
Oh, yeah. Y8.
The website filled with games for kids. Oh my god, that's the bomb at that time. Like,
Yeah.
video games. What console? We have Y8. Barbie makeover.
Right?
And cooking whatever games did they have in Y8. Now
Exactly.
we had a lot of side comments or side stories now, but I have another question. Okay, so going back to our topic, AB, I have another question. Do you think animation studios would ever go bankrupt, or would they ever go out of business?
Just because of pirating anime?
Could be, or in general. What do you think?
I don't think so. Like, okay, so here's the thing, right? I think that piracy or anime piracy, let's keep it a little less broad, is like a necessary evil. Like it's wrong. It's wrong. But at the same time, again, like I mentioned, the reason why anime is as prevalent as it is right now is because of fan subs, of people, making it more accessible to everyone else and everywhere else where it wasn't before, or like just keeping it to very exclusive group of people, like as if they're treating it like it's this luxurious good and only these people can have it. So I think that because it's grown so much, it currently does have the potential to make, I don't know, like other contracts, like now, it's something that we haven't seen, what, even like 5 years ago, where they were making contracts with streaming sites like Netflix, for example. And then that's just another means for them to get money. And a lot of people already have a Netflix subscription. I'm not saying everyone does, but a lot of people have a Netflix subscription, and it's not just particularly just for anime. It's to watch other shows and other movies. So I mean, it just garners more people to watch as well, and more people to use, let's say, Netflix as a means to watch that anime, and probably in turn become fans of the product, and then get, I don't know, and then buy the merchandise, and then get the DVD collections and whatever. So I don't think that it would go bankrupt, specifically because of piracy or in general.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. Because for me, in based on what you've said, piracy boosted the popularity of anime. Let's just admit that. Like most of us, like even for me at the time, I was so broke when I was a kid. Obviously, I don't have the means to buy merchandise, right? So what do? I just go to pirate websites, or anime sites that can give me the the material or the anime that I want to watch, right? And even the pirated CDs, that's the only thing that I can afford. That's how much back then, 30 pesos per disc.
Yeah.
So that was my gateway into the anime. And now that I'm a paying adult, I have the money, I can pay for the streaming
Right.
services. It's just that, like I have to pay for what? Not only one, but maybe 5 streaming services just so I can watch all of the anime that I want. Because number one, Netflix library. Let's admit it, it's kind of basic. That's not the level of
Right,
anime
right.
genres that I'm looking to now. Like those
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
the animes that I've watched when I was a kid, or But even in Crunchyroll, have you tried subscribing to Crunchyroll?
Of course, I have.
Yeah, but but yeah, their library too is
Yeah.
it's
Again,
not.
it's per region
Yeah.
as well.
And knowing that we are in Dubai, obviously, like there's gonna be a lot of restrictions in terms of region, in terms of content. So that's another thing that we have to think about. And I honestly think that piracy is not about the money. It's more about the service, the availability of the service,
Right.
right? Like if it's within or if it is available, I'd gladly pay for it, man. Like I don't want to go through browsing an anime website again with the pop-ups, the potentially potential virus or scam pages that I have to click through. And see, the thing with pirated websites is that once you click on the play button that you had to click thrice before you can play the
10 million
anime,
ads come.
10 million ads come. And at the same time, if you click anything on that timeline or that bar, let's say, for example, you want to skip the opening song, man, that's another 3 clicks just for you
Yeah.
to go through all of that. Man, I'd rather just sit down, go to Netflix, watch something, like I'm tired of this. I just take my money, please. Instead of me going through this torture, right? But the thing is, like, you have to go to, or you have to have all of these streaming platforms. I think there's other websites that you can go through and browse other popular titles. But man, how much is that gonna be? Right? Aside from the Netflix that you're paying for, Crunchyroll or whatever, Viz Media, I think they also have another streaming site. So, what? I'm not sure how much the final cost will be, but man, that's not going to be, reasonable for me to pay for those multiple websites, right? Anything you want to say, Amy, regarding that
That
region?
Yeah, no, I think it's all. Yeah, no, I think it's like you said about like Netflix, the ease that comes with it, right? Like you can easily skip the opening, like you can easily skip the intro, and you don't have to like have 10 million ads just popping up in your face anytime you just click, even if it's by accident, right? But then again, I also think that it's really about the incentive, right? So like, I mean, there are illegal websites out there that does have a better player than, let's say, Crunchyroll, and at the same time, you're you have everything in one place. I mean, like that's the incentive you get, that this is all just in one place. Again, you're not moving from platform to platform. I'm just like giving like another side to it.
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
necessarily like saying, hey, please pirate now. There are other sites on there. No, but like because you're alternating between platforms, it's also something that's inconvenient to you as a consumer. And it's not always just different titles, right? Let's say, it's not just like, Demon Slayer is in Netflix and Bungo Stray Dogs is in Hulu, for example. It's not just that. Sometimes different seasons of the same anime are on different platforms. Let's say it's only up till season 3 on Netflix, and then for some reason, I don't know, Prime has a license for season 5 onwards. and so you have to pay for all these things. So again, I guess in terms of piracy, right? It's also the incentive that you get. It's like you said, it's not just about the money, it's also the quality of service that you're gonna get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of, when you mentioned that, I remember we were talking about Neon Evangelion last time,
Right.
right? Like I watched it on Netflix, and you're telling me, yeah, let's discuss about it, blah blah blah. And then I told you that I want to make an episode about it, but once I've watched the, I think the remastered or the remake, I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I know Neon Genesis Evangelion has like this huge fan base, but I think they have this 1.0, 2.0 stuff that they released on Amazon Prime. So I have to pay for Amazon Prime just for me to see that, right? Like, and how much will that subscription will be, right? So yeah, it makes sense that people resort to doing piracy because of because of that. But wait, since we've been talking about anime piracy since the beginning of the episode, I want to know if you also have any insights regarding video games. What about video games? What do you think about piracy in video games? Do you have any experience? Why are you smiling like that, Amy?
I love my games, I swear. There was a Steam sale last week. So yeah. No, okay. So wait, I'm making it awkward for myself for unnecessary reasons. Okay, so for video games, okay. So when I started playing video games, they were usually pirated.
Obviously.
Now I have nothing to say. No, so yeah, I mean, again, it's sort of like, because you start video games when you're pretty young, I think.
And you're poor.
And you get to the point where you learn how to download stuff instead of ask your parents. So yeah, but like, again, so for example, right, like there's like a certain game that I've played that initially I did play it illegally, but when I was able to afford it, it's the same case really. When I was able to afford it, I still bought games within that franchise. I still support the game till now. So again, I guess it's almost the same case where it's still an experience for certain people just because they can't. And I mean, but it's not something that you should do just because, like, if you have the means, then don't do it, right?
Yeah.
But it's like excluding some people from a certain experience. And it's, I guess, like, with anything, like with games or with shows, I think it's better like when it's something shared, when more people get to talk about it or more people get to experience it. And it's not just this like just a few people who are like, oh, I have access to all of this, and boo-hoo for you.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I have the same experience with you, I guess. But that's also like PS1 era or PS era. We don't have legitimate, way to buy video games or CDs or
they
games.
were all fake CDs.
Yeah, obviously, like they were all fake unless you have a relative from Japan or from other country who can ship it to you. But man, 90% of the time, everyone had fake CDs back then. That's why Japan is traumatized by the Philippines at this point. That's That's why they will never have, Sony network maybe in the Philippines. I don't know. Who knows? But that's why they're
Mm.
not recognizing us. And I remember we used to buy, obviously, pirated CDs because that's the only thing available at the time until PS2 era. And then by PS3, I remember that was the time where jailbreaks are a thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Are
yeah,
you
yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had any jailbreak console?
No,
Nah.
actually, no.
Yeah, but for me, I had one. It was an Xbox, and we are like a family of PlayStation fan, right? So an
Mm.
Xbox was just given to us by our relative from Canada. That he's not using the Xbox anymore. Let me just send it to you guys. Maybe you can use it. But the thing is, man, where are we gonna buy Xbox CDs? Like Philippines
Mm.
at that time, or I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I am. But at that time, we weren't really buying Xbox, or we don't have
Mm.
knowledge where to get the CDs at that time. So we had to jailbreak it, right? And that's the only way that we could play games on the Xbox. But on the PS, I think starting PlayStation 3, we started
Mm.
supporting it legally, like really buying,
Yeah.
because we already have the means, right? Like
Mm.
we already had, the money to support our hobby, which is gaming is honestly an expensive hobby. I swear to God, like,
Yeah.
man, the amount of money that I've spent on video games, my God.
Mm.
And see, another good thing about it is on PC, Steam, as you have mentioned, almost all
Yeah.
games is available on Steam. If not, it's on Epic
Mm.
Games, right? So it's not really hard to find a source for it, unlike anime that you have to go through different
Right.
platforms. The good thing about it is that the video game industry, in comparison to the anime industry, is that they're willing to step out or to try new things every now
Mm.
and then, right? Like they're constantly evolving into greater things compared to, like what I mentioned, the anime industry, which is stuck from the business model of the 60s. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's my take on it on video games. But I'm trying to think if I have tried playing pirated games on PC. I don't think,
That's mostly
because
where I that's mostly where
ah
I did. Yeah, yeah. The fake CDs thing was like, I don't know, like 2, 3 CDs.
mhm.
But because PS2, like, because I had a PS2, and I mean, buying games here was pretty accessible. I don't know the experience in Philippines, but here in Dubai,
Oh
like
yeah.
PS2 games were all like pretty accessible, and it's something you could buy. So those were uh that's also one reason why I never had to jailbreak my PS2 or
Yeah.
Xbox, because I mean, it's all here. PC is
PC is like that. That's a different story. Yeah, I wanted to know, like, how is the experience different from Dubai to Philippines? Like, see, for me,
uh
yeah. Go ahead.
no, I wouldn't really know, because like I mean, yeah, I really wouldn't know, just because, like, I don't know, it's not something I don't really know the experience in Philippines,
Ah,
but
okay.
it's just
Mm-hmm.
that there were there were available, like, you could literally go to Carrefour and there were like PS2 CDs that you could
Mm-hmm.
buy, and I mean, it was there, it was like everywhere, so it wasn't like a difficult thing. But like you said, like, it's a gaming is an expensive hobby, so it's not like you could probably play as many games as you could, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And just comparing your experience and my experience in the Philippines, I really cannot say, I guess, that PS2 games are not available at that time. But see, the thing is, even if I go to malls, I haven't really found at that time I was still a kid. I haven't really seen stores that are selling PS2 games. It's always just, the pirated ones. The ones with,
Oh.
I think they have the same supplier that if you play, let's say, 4 discs of Final Fantasy, disc 1 to 3 is working, but middle of disc 3 it's not working anymore, And then if you buy
Yeah.
another CD, it's the same. The disc 3 is not
Mm.
working. And the good thing about it is that their warranty is only good for 7 days. You can only return the game within 7 days. But I don't think you can finish Final Fantasy within 7 days at that time,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And speaking of piracy on PCs, I haven't really experienced it because in the Philippines, online games or free to play games were a thing, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe it's all pirated back then. Who knows?
No, because I don't really play MMOs. I usually play
Okay.
RPGs, so
Wait,
that's why. And
wait.
I didn't have a console.
Uh-huh.
Like, I mean, I didn't have a console back at uni, so I
Mm.
mean, and I was a student. That's another again. Like now that now that I can afford, and I know that there are Steam sales, you know.
Supporting the industry. Man, oh my god, I want to tell you this story. Wait. I recently bought a laptop, right? Yeah, new
Mm.
laptop, new investment. So I went onto Steam right away. Then, man, this Dota 2 stuff is just making me broke. So when I logged in, because there's an ongoing battle pass on Dota 2, I'm like, I
Mm.
really want this skin of my favorite character. I'm like, am I willing to spend 500 dirhams for this? Let me think. I immediately spent 100 dirhams though, just for the battle pass thingy. So yeah, but okay, now I have a question. Since you agree that video games is an expensive hobby, what's the most
Mhm.
expensive um, game or anything that you've bought from or for video game or any game?
Uh, it's not Japanese though. It's like Assassin's Creed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just because me and Nico, my boyfriend, we followed the franchise like all the way
Mm.
from like AC1, like even like the expansions, and like even like the other games that's not necessarily like it's part of the series, but
Mm.
like people would tend to skip.
Mm-mm.
It's not like let's say you have AC1, then AC2, then you have AC Brotherhood, then you have AC Revelations, and then you have AC3. Like we play like each and every game. I mean, I just haven't played the mobile games. I think there's like a mobile game for it I haven't played, but
Mm-hmm.
like for the most part we play that. So, and then obviously I would purchase for my Steam, and he would purchase for his Steam. So I mean, I guess in that sense, that's the most that's the most expensive I've spent on games. Yeah, and it's still ongoing. And they might have like there was like a leak that was
Oh
released
yeah. Mm-hmm.
recently that yeah, I think I posted on my story
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, there might be another one that comes out next year, and it kind of puts other stories in circle and has different time skips. So I mean, that's another cool thing, and I see my money going next year as well. If it does come out next year, so
Well, that's what anime and video game does to you. Like, man, you just gotta spend that money. Like
yeah.
what
For you, what was the
else?
most expensive that you?
Girl, don't expose me. Oh my god. My mom could probably be watching this. What? But guys, just so you know, I will not name how much I've spent or which franchise or series have I spent it on. But obviously you guys will know based on my gamer tag, Vivz Black Mage. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no, that's another still ongoing kind of game still.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes
so
sense.
man, imagine how many games have they released, and so what I do is every time there's a game coming
I've
out,
pirated a lot. I've pirated a lot of those.
so yeah,
No,
I mean, I pirated also some of
it's
it.
like, yeah, no, because like tactics. Okay, I didn't play it as a child. I played it at a PC emulator. At how else am I gonna get it? No, again, I was
It
I was a
was an
student.
yeah.
No, wait, go on.
So yeah, I mean, okay, so usually if it's available, I usually try to buy the collector's edition. But if it's not, I try to buy the deluxe edition at least, not the standard. If it's available, or if I can at least afford it, because I remember the collector's edition of Final Fantasy 15 back then was 16,000 pesos. So how much is that in dirhams? Around 1,100, I guess, or 1,200 dirhams.
More or less.
Yeah, more or less. And it got sold out immediately, obviously, because Final Fantasy 15 is like a 10-year-old game development, right? So many people were already anticipating it at that time. And then I remember scalpers were selling it for 26,000 minimum. So there's like an extra 1,000 dirhams on top of it just for scalpers, And I think the highest bid that I saw was even 40,000. I don't really remember the exact figure, but that's how absurd it was, right? So, but I didn't spend that money yet. So I was still like, not earning a lot back then. So, and I didn't have the money to just buy a 26,000, pesos worth of video game. My mom would kill me if she knew. But, right? But usually, if you're going to be buying deluxe edition, a standard edition of a video game costs around 3,000 pesos. I guess 300 dirhams is the regular price, or 299 or something. And the deluxe edition ranges from 500 dirhams to 700, depends on the game. So yeah, just imagine that is if you're gonna buy on the regular day one price. But if you're gonna be buying on sales, I mean, at least you will get maybe 50% off or something. But man, it's really expensive. Imagine I just I just opened Dota 2 and I'm already thinking of spending 500 dirhams just to buy an Arcana of Drow Ranger. So so yeah, anything else that you want to add, Amy?
No, it's just like just going back to anime, and because like you mentioned, like affordability and all of that. I think one of the reasons, at least in Philippines, why people also pirate like shows or whatever is because of the slow internet. I mean, I don't know how much internet is now, or how much or how fast speeds are in the Philippines right now, but at least back then, when the rest of the world was having good enough internet, the Philippines was still very, very slow. And
Up until now.
I guess that's another.
And I guess that's one reason why
people also pirated, because that was one way to watch things in one go. Because like even if you paid for a streaming service, and there was no like back then there weren't any offline downloads, or at least that wasn't right. Right.
Wait, what's offline download? Like just enlighten me on that.
Like on Netflix, for example, like you can download shows even if you're offline. So you can watch even if you're offline. And that wasn't a thing back then. Like, you just had to stream the show. So
or
I mean, so what people would Yeah,
Mm.
that's what I mean. That's why people would torrent it
Yeah.
because of their slow internet. They can't just stream, and the only way to
Yeah.
properly watch it in one go, or even binge a series. I mean, that's why Netflix is as big as it is because people just love to binge things.
Yeah.
Is you know, and instead of like yeah, so basically yeah, instead of like streaming like with really slow internet and just like wondering what's gonna happen next, people would just fire it just to get everything accessible for them. Again, it's also not everyone is as privileged to
Yeah.
pay for things and to get
Mm-hmm.
access to things. So people do what they have to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I would also want to add that not only the region locks is an issue, but in general, exclusivity in the anime industry is, like killing whatever, or it is a convenience killer, I would say. Like
Mm.
even now in video games, exclusivity is such a huge thing. That's why
Mm.
most of the games that I play, I cannot play it on laptop or on PC. It will be released first in PlayStation, and then it will be, released on PC maybe like 2 months after, 3 months if you're
Mm.
lucky. If not, generally it's like 1 to 2 years before they release the PC version of it, just because they want to get the sales on the exclusives. And um, honestly, Sony, when they're selling consoles, they're underselling the console itself. Did you know that? That,
Really?
yeah, they're underselling the consoles. So they're not really technically earning when they sell, let's say, a piece of a PlayStation 5. They earn their money back from the games and, you know, merchandise. Like it's almost the same with the anime industry because remember,
Mm.
Sony and most of the JRPGs that we still play up until this day is
Mm.
Japanese made, obviously. So they still
Yeah.
have that, same mindset. That's the only thing that probably I would say that they would need improvement on. Like
Mm.
try to explore and innovate into new business models and stuff, right?
Mm.
Because this kind of business model is not gonna work in the long run.
Yeah.
Like I swear, especially now with the interconnectivity of everything,
Mm.
and just having the technology that we have right now. Anything that's not convenient is easily an issue
You're
for
gonna
us,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Like you just want to sit
Uh,
down, just turn on one thing or one website and just get everything from there.
with what you were saying about like when something is inconvenient, people will just like flick through like, okay, I don't want this because it's very inconvenient for me. And
Mm-hmm.
there's something else out there that's more convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to say, like, for example, like an example of that is Comic Can't Communicate. Like I said a while ago, I was watching that. Just I don't know if you've seen the show, but
No, I haven't.
the show basically it's all right. Basically, the show is very communication based. Basically, it's this girl who has this anxiety to communicate. That's why it's Comic Can't Communicate. So a lot of the scenes has writing on it, especially like even the way it was introduced. There's this whole chalkboard scene where there are two characters that write on the board what they want to say to each other because it's something that it doesn't bring her as much anxiety as actually talking.
Mm-hmm.
So like Netflix didn't have subs for that at all. So it's like you just see Japanese text on the screen and you're like, okay, I don't
Seriously?
know what I don't know what's written there. But then there are fan subs. Again, back to like fan subs building this whole community.
Mm-hmm.
So there were fan subs of the show that would be released 3 weeks before it was released on Netflix. So not only were you getting it first, you were also seeing like really good translations, like really well done with like the font like the correct font that blended really well, like the text blended really well. Unlike Netflix, that was very like that didn't integrate that kind of a scenario at all, just because they have that rule of like not having on-screen text and text translations and dialogues all in one scene, and just to focus what's important for the plot. But that's the thing though, like it's a show that's very heavily based on communication, and that's the a lot of the plot is written in the text, which wasn't seen. And for people, it's available in the fan sub. So what is your incentive for watching it on Netflix if I can watch it earlier on on somewhere else with better not better translations, but with more with more
Context.
translations on screen to know what's happening more. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree, because I really don't want to say this, but the fan subbers back then up until now, man, you guys are heroes. I swear to God. Like,
Yeah, they're here.
you guys saved our asses many times by having these, fan subbing projects. I remember, I would agree that most of the time, if you're going to be watching a fan subbed anime, it has a lot of context in it. You can fully understand what they're talking about. And at the same time, it's not called subtitles. The one that they put on the screen at the top, just so you can understand. Like, it's like the asterisk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you understand the context of what they're talking about.
Which helped me understand the culture more, the scene more, or whatever is happening, which is good, because there's a lot of things that can get lost in translation, especially if it's if it's not your first language. That's what the subtitles are for. So if the subtitles are just another example, have you watched 13?
Yeah, I've seen 13.
Have you tried watching it in the different dubs that is available? Like, it has Filipino dub, Japanese dub, and English dub. Like, if you will try to watch it on those three languages, like just maybe one episode, you will see the difference, or how it becomes localized, I would say. Like, for example, it would make you understand also why they had to do localization. Like, see, there are things in the Japanese culture that we cannot understand in the Philippines if it's going to be, dubbed in Filipino. So they had to change the meaning or the context of what they're talking to each other, just so it will fit into the scene without having to necessarily explain the Japanese culture. I remember I was watching a show before on Hero TV. It's an anime or Filipino-based anime channel back home. They were talking about how Filipino dubbers before didn't even have scripts. Like, they didn't get the scripts from the Japanese companies. They will just get the anime in like raw version, like no audio. They just had to, do their stuff and make up the dialogues as they go. And that's crazy. Like, man, how can you possibly do that, right? But I think that that's also a popular thing for fan dubs or the abridged series online. So I guess it does happen, but man, just the localization stuff, or like subbing or dubbing one show to another language, is just crazy. Like, have you tried watching Tagalized movies that's originally English?
I mean, I've seen them on TV. Again, like whenever I would go on vacations, they would dub English movies. You know what? I make it sound like every vacation I spent a lot of time at home. I did not. Every vacation was fun, and we always had stuff planned. It's just that I think most people are just not morning people, so most of our outings were like afternoon, evening. So I would see all these morning
morning shows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. yeah, so I would see. Oh, and there was Meteor Garden as well. I saw that when I was in Philippines. Everyone was like super into it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it never showed here in Dubai. I had TFC. It's like the ABS CBN OFW version. So we had TFC, but they never like showed Meteor Garden. So I only saw it in Philippines. And because everyone was obsessed with it that time, I saw it. You know, we were not outside during those times. So yeah, that's another example of like seeing something in Tagalog that
Mhm.
that isn't Tagalog. Yeah, so I have.
Yeah. But you know, the benefit of understanding Japanese, like it will give you,
Mhm.
man, after watching so many animes and really studying Japanese, like you will really understand the context more instead of the subtitles. I mean, I know they're working hard on translating it onto subtitles, but sometimes really it's the language barrier. Like, you know, there are
Yeah.
some things that you cannot really just translate word for word, because I remember what happened to Trece was like it's a transliteration, like it's
Mm.
directly word for word, you
Yeah,
know.
it's not the context of what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's just like directly word from word translation. That's why.
Yeah.
And I think the original script, correct me if I'm wrong, I am not sure about this, I think the original script was in English, and then it got localized to Tagalog and then Japanese. So imagine, like,
Okay.
yeah, that's how it was. So yeah, anything else you want to add, Amy?
Uh no, I just remembered as well. What do you call, if you asked me if the anime industry would go broke earlier on,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing that, people fail to bring up or don't like bringing up is
Mm-hmm.
that Crunchyroll itself started as an illegal site until like a company invested in them, like, I don't know, $4 million or whatever. They gave them a huge amount of money to start licensing their resources. And that's basically why it became legal to, and to watch anime. And the reason why Crunchyroll was even successful in the first place was they already had their foot in as an illegal site. They didn't have to market themselves
Yeah,
from the beginning. People already knew Crunchyroll because that's
yeah,
how people were watching.
yeah.
So, and I don't know, or at least back then, I don't think there was any other animated streaming site that
Mm-hmm.
was legal
Mm-hmm.
and that was as popular as Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
All because of the fact that they started pirating in the first place. And yeah, I mean, there are other ways to support, like you said, right? Like most of the money that they get anyways is from buying merch and
Mm-hmm.
you know all that stuff. So I mean, yeah. And
And
um and like, I mean, this is a little away from what I was talking about. I just there we people have like audition animes, like for
what's
example,
audition anime?
like an audition animes where where like you want to watch an anime because it's super popular, but then it's available in, let's say Amazon Prime, but you don't have Amazon Prime and you don't want to get Amazon Prime just because an anime that you may not like is there. So what else would you do?
Wait, I'm not getting it. Girl. What is it?
No, like for example, if you see an anime, you won't necessarily know that you like to watch it,
Ah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Like it
Mm-hmm.
can be like super popular. You can see it on Reels or I don't know, wherever you see like anime,
Mm-hmm.
and like everyone's talking about it. Like for example, My Hero Academia, I used to see it like everywhere, but I
Yeah, yeah.
never, like, I didn't think that I would like it. Like I was just not into the whole premise at first. I
Mm-hmm.
do like it, but at the beginning, like I would see it everywhere, but it's not like, oh, I wasn't sure if I would like it,
Yeah, yeah.
and it wasn't the title that was available here, so or at yeah, it's still not a title that's available here. So I
I'm.
mean,
Mm.
So everyone who's been talking about it, like, they can't wash. You can't wash your hands because, like, where have you been seeing it? And also,
Whoops.
everyone who's yeah. No, and it's like what I mentioned before, like Mugen Train. Like, how are they expecting people to watch it in cinemas when it wasn't on Netflix, it wasn't on Crunchyroll, but it was here?
What do you mean here?
I mean, the movie was here.
But girl, remember, like when Mugen Train was released in the cinemas here, it wasn't immediate. Like it took them months as well to release it. I
Yeah.
remember
Oh,
it
yeah.
was released. My God, I don't know the exact month, but in Dubai, I think it was released around April last year.
Yeah, it's more or less.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it was already like more than 6 months, and people are like going crazy because I've been seeing a lot of news back then that Mugen Train is the bomb, it's the best movie ever, and like people just posting their reaction or their feelings towards the movie, and we're like, man, when are we gonna watch this? When will it be available in the cinema? Because for me, I was so tempted to watch it on a pirated website. I honestly was.
Mm.
Like, because there's no way for me to do it. But I'm like, man, I'm glad I watched this in the cinema though. Like just the
Yeah.
feels of the anime. Man, it's crazy. But have you watched the latest season of Demon Slayer?
No, I don't think I have. Or I think I have. I watch a lot of things.
Just random
You
stuff.
have to- oh, no, I have. I
Okay.
have. There you
Yeah,
go.
because for me, I haven't seen the season 2 only because I've read the manga. And I'm like, meh.
Yeah.
I mean, I will just wait for it once it's done instead of me waiting for it
Mm.
every week. But one thing I wanted to add in our discussion, but just like a brief discussion about it, is pirating mangas. Have you ever read, or are you a fan of reading manga?
No, no, I don't really read manga. I think I've also said it like in previous episodes.
Yeah.
I've only ever read one manga. I mean, I've tried with a couple of, well, because obviously I would see the show first. So I've tried with a lot of like I've tried with a lot of anime titles, and like, oh, let's say it will take a while for the season to come out, or they've canceled the show, but like the manga is still continuing. So
Mhm.
like I would try to read the mangas, but it never really
Yeah, a thing.
sticks.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing for me. I love reading books, but I don't know. And I like comics as well. I don't know. It's just manga, I guess. It's a me problem with mangas. I don't know.
I mean, for me, I like reading mangas. There was a point in my life that I was reading a lot of it, especially when the ongoing series, like for me, didn't like it's just a cliffhanger. And like, I need to know what's next. I need to know who's gonna die next. So,
Mm.
yeah, I happen to read a lot of manga, but the thing is, another issue in the Philippines was the availability. That's number one. Number two is the price of one
Mm.
manga. Like, I'm not sure how it was. Like, maybe around 500 pesos when I was in high school. Man, that's a huge amount
Yeah.
of money if you're still a student. So I'm like, there's no way that I can afford this. And um, I cannot say that it will eat space in my room because, man, my books are just eating space too, and my video game collection. But yeah, like, it's not really a thing for me, I guess, to buy mangas, especially now that
Yeah.
I am in Dubai, and like, it's really hard to have your own space here. That I also mentioned in the previous episode. So yeah, I mean, just briefly going through it, I'm not. But see, I all of the things that we have talked about today are probably just speculations. We really don't
Mm.
know the depth of how piracy is affecting the industry and whatnot. But just as a recap of our episode, anything else you want to add, Amy?
No. What was your take on
Yeah.
pirating manga?
Um, you've mentioned this already, but it was a necessary evil for anime to be known internationally. That's number one. Number two is for people to enjoy anime that's not easily available to them. Like for us, example. And yeah, like if everything will just be in one place, if it will be convenient for me to watch it, if I mean, who knows if they will put all of the titles on Netflix? I mean, that's a dream come true. But if they will do, if they will lessen the exclusivity thing and just not work like it's still the 60s, then that will be great. I mean, that will solve a lot. Not really 100% solve the issue, but at least, you know. How about you? What's your final take on this issue?
Final take, sorry, yeah. I mean, it's again about the incentive people get and the accessibility. So, I mean, will it go away? Probably not anytime soon, just because, again, there's still a lot of issues and, like, again, the accessibility and everything that we've talked about. So, yeah, it's something that is being done, and but it's not something that you should do, especially if you have the means.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
basically, something that I've reiterated the entire time.
Yeah. And one more thing that I want to add though, like even if we like for example, if anime sites or anime companies will stop licensing anime, it doesn't mean, or if they will shut down anime pirated websites, all of it, I mean, these people who are watching anime wouldn't necessarily turn into paying customers. You know?
Yeah.
Like if you take away this pirated website, then okay, Kalas, I'm okay, I'm not gonna watch anime. Right? Or they will find other ways to watch it for free. Right? So yeah, I guess it's just really there. I'm not saying that we should support piracy, obviously. It's just that I don't really think, like what you've said, I don't really think it's ever gonna go away.
And they're not gonna go broke. Like I just remembered, like Louis. I don't know how to say the brand because it's too rich for me. But like Louis, they have Spirited Away merch. They have bags that are Spirited Away that are like 15,000 dirhams. That's like almost, I don't know, or around $4,000 for a bag that has Chihiro's face or no face.
Go to
I mean, they're not gonna go broke.
Yeah, go to Bershka. You will see a lot of Sailor Moon merchandise and Naruto merchandise, and I'm like, man, people go gaga over these merchandise, just because they think it's quote unquote vintage. Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon, because see how it looks like? It looks the style that they're selling in Bershka. I'm sorry to say this, but yeah, it looks quote unquote vintage. So
so they're not going broke anytime soon. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone should pirate, they're not gonna go broke. But as long as you buy their merch, but their merch is also very expensive. That Spirited Away bag is 15,000 dirhams, $4,000. That's like more than people's salary, honestly.
Yeah. Well, if you have the money, then go buy it. But man, I'm not gonna spend that much on a Spirited Away bag. Not yet, at least. Maybe if it's a different, different franchise. Okay, so yeah, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. So if you could leave us a comment, tell us what your thoughts, your opinion about this discussion, whatever you think is, or anything that you want to discuss, just let us know on our social media. It's Ara Ara Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I think we're also going to be launching Snapchat. Or no, TikTok.
Yeah, no, Snapchat as well. Snapchat as well.
Okay. Yeah. And anything you want to plug, Amy?
You can follow at Hasta La Vista Amy.
And for me, that's Vivz Black Mage on Instagram. So yeah, thank you again, guys, for tuning in and listening to our episode today, and hope to see you guys again soon. Bye!
Bye.